Hey, Vernon Rowan from Silver Tiger Media. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm
It's
here.
tremendous.
Here I am. There I am.
Hey, there you are in person. Tremendous to
I
speak
love
with
the background.
you. Thank you. It's great to catch up. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, man.
I've got to tell you, it seems to me like it was only yesterday that I was stage front at Soundwave in 2014, being blown away by you and Living Colour. What an
Oh,
amazing time.
thank you, mate. Thank you.
It's so exciting you're coming back to see us again next month. Living Colour and Extreme, just an unmissable show. Are you excited about coming back?
I am. I am. And the tour's been going really well. And we've been having fun with the guys, and it's been lovely. Really has been lovely. I mean, the respect between the two bands could not be higher. It was just very cool, you know. And I
Absolutely.
love Nuno. Nuno's a cool dude. He's a funny guy, and yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, magnificent. While we're talking about Extreme, of course, they formed shortly after Living Colour, only about 200 miles from where you were. But did you have
Yeah.
any inkling back then, around about the sort of 1984 mark, that you would possibly still be playing 40 years later?
Oh yeah, you never think about that when when you're in it. You kind of don't. You're taking a walk into space. And that's something that both bands have that in common. And the fact that we're here, both bands, is really cool.
Oh,
It's really
absolutely, indeed. And you personally were already so accomplished at the start of Living Colour and noted playing with Ronald Shannon Jackson and having recorded
yes.
Smash and Scatteration with Bill Frisell
This was yeah.
the same year. I mean, do you remember if there was a point where you decided, right, music is going to be my vocation?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty early on. It was pretty early on. I was in high school, and I just met a bunch of wonderful musicians and teachers and people that influenced me. They're really cool people and really unique and very quirky people. And it's the people you meet a lot of times. And then finally, the people I saw, they were local musicians, not just people, famous people on records, but there was a guitarist in my neighborhood named Arthur Rames, who was just a multi-instrumentalist, and he just mind-blowing and to have somebody, people in your neighborhood like him, like Larry Marsden, like these are not people that are well known to the public, but they had a huge effect on me, as well as, Carlos Santana and hearing Hendrix and Robert Fripp and all the incredible players, that I heard coming up, Richard Blackmore, all these folks. But, hearing local people who were extremely talented. Yeah.
Indeed. And of course, you helped so many others realize their vocation when you founded the BLC, the Black Rock Coalition,
Absolutely.
back in the day. What was the drive behind that for you?
Well, man, it was just a kind of gut check, I mean, really, it was getting together with friends actually, and I have to give this woman, Linda Bryant, who owned the African American woman who owned the art gallery. That's where we first had our meetings, and it
Oh,
was really just calling up a bunch of my friends, and it was really about. I went to see a gig of my friend's band, Melvin Gibbs, who went on to play bass with the Rollins band. He had a band called I and I, and the band was the first rock band to have a DJ in it, way before Linkin Park. The DJ Logic, who became known in the jam band community, was a member. He was 17, So it was like I went to this gig and there was nobody there, and I was thinking I was going through what I was going through with my thing that I was doing. And so I was just calling people, say, yo, is it me? And actually a lot of folks, the people that came, like Greg, my dear friend Greg Tate, rest in peace,
yes.
Condemnation. The producer Craig Street, who went on to produce Nora Jones, people that did really remarkable things. we all got together and we just started talking about really, it was really about what was happening with the downtown scene in New York. That was our local scene, and how it was getting weird, how the same club you would hang out one night wouldn't let you in, the Velvet Rope, you wouldn't be let in the next night. So, wow, I was just in this club, right? So
Wow.
we started checking stuff out. And then basically, I think it was Craig, she said, what are we going to do about it? Well, it was really just talking to friends. And then from that point on, what are we going to do about it? And Greg Tate said, I'm going to write a manifesto. And then they made me the president. They said,
Yeah.
well, you made the phone call, dude. So that's, and that's how it started, and it's really about a sense of community. We never really took money from the record labels. It's all been community based.
Yeah.
And James Spooner on the West Coast was doing a similar thing with Afropunk, and I've only very recently got to know him. And
Right.
it's been years, that we haven't, because you know how regions are, right?
Mm.
And there's so much simpatico, and then yeah, so all of that, man, it's just about freedom. It's really about freedom. I mean, it's about the freedom for everybody. I mean, rock and roll music is everyone's music, and that's the point. And whoever you are, you have something to express, then express it. That's my whole point about rock and roll music.
Absolutely. And of course, at the time, I guess right at the start, Corey was expressing himself in another way as an aspiring actor. Let me get this
Oh,
right and hear it from your good self personally. Is it right that you heard Corey singing at a singing happy birthday at a party
absolutely.
that started the
Happy
journey?
birthday. It's the only party that was filled with people. And it's a crazy. So my sister dragged me to this party because she dragged me. It was my middle sister, who's usually a pretty mild-mannered person. And she said, I never see you. You're coming with me to this party. She dragged me to this party. I went with her. And it was a room full of people. And it was time for this girl, was a friend of my sister's, her birthday. And people said, get Corey, get Corey, get Corey. And Corey was dating this young woman. And it's the only party still where it was filled with people, but only one person sang happy birthday. And
Wow.
we all listened to Corey Glover sing happy birthday. And I said to him, man, you've got a really nice voice. I said, you have a really nice voice. And I took his number, and then I started this, I've been playing with Shannon Jackson. I left him. It was time for me to leave that nest.
Yeah.
I started playing around with a little power trio. And I came up with the name. It was Vernan Reid's Live in Color, right? And it's kind of like musicians that played with Miles Davis all kind of sounded like Miles
Yep.
Davis. So it was kind of like that. And then I realized I was too self-conscious as a guitarist and singing. I was a little too self-conscious about it. And I said, I'm going to call that guy that I met at the party. And I'm going to call this guy. And he picked up, and I had some songs. He came by and he sang them. I said, man, this cat sounds great. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning
Wow.
of the Living Color that people know. I was a pre-shoegazer, so I figured I needed a little more charisma up front. So
Indeed. And of course, during that time, around about the 1986 mark, I guess he starred in Platoon, so he got to do a little bit of that as well, which was cool.
oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
then on July 14th of 1988, just a few years later, the unmistakable, unique, and utterly unforgettable riffs of Cult of Personality began a huge chapter in the annals of musical history. Can
Yeah.
you tell me how the riff came about? Apparently, it was by complete accident. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, because Corey, we had a loft space in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and it was above a refrigerator and air conditioning repair store. With some Spanish guys that's what they did. They fixed refrigerators and air conditioners. We were right above them, and we were right by the elevator tracks of the subway. The J train was right there, M train. And Corey said, "Oh man, I got an idea for a thing." And he was singing something, and I was trying to figure out what he was singing, and I stumbled on the da 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 da. I stumbled on that riff, and as soon as I stumbled on this riff. I think I said, "Will, put a beat to this," and we just started jamming, and from that point on, I always say that the song kind of assembled itself.
Wow.
It's almost like the song. It was incredible because it was this one rehearsal, and the whole rehearsal was the writing of Cult of Personality, and we just it just kind of, we couldn't repeat the same riff. So I started messing around with it, and then it started to have a really good feel to it. And then I started playing this series of chords, and I was imitating there was a piano player who I went to high school with named Raymond Jones, R.I.P. to Raymond, who he himself was a piano player who joined the band Chic, and it's like this friend of mine from high school is playing on the song Good Times, which became a big hit for them. But that was the Sugar Hill Gang. They kind of did a riff. They did a rhyme on top of that. So that's kind of like the first famous hip hop rap single, right? So I have a personal connection to that because this friend of mine, he's playing the Fender Rhodes part on that, right? So I was playing these chords, and I was thinking, well, how would Raymond? He used to voice chords in a particular way, and I was kind of imitating this friend of mine who was very influenced by Todd Rundgren, So I was playing these chords, and then we were that was happening, and then I had written this poem. And it was basically, look in my eyes, what do you see? The Cult of Personality. And part of that is because this was written before the walls fell, right? So we were still in the grip of the Cold War, right? We were part of the Cold War generation, the final countdown.
Yeah.
We were part of the Cold War. The final countdown is a total artifact of the Cold War, right? And that really framed a lot of what culturally was happening, right? And basically, Cult of Personality was Nikita Khrushchev denouncing Joseph Stalin. After Joseph Stalin had died, and he said, well, he erected a cult of personality around himself, and that was such a poetic phrase about Stalin. And I thought about the cult of personality is not limited to Joseph Stalin. It's really populism. Like all the popular leaders have this thing around them. And whether you dig them or don't dig them, I mean, I included Gandhi, I included Kennedy, because they all did the whole Camelot conversation. There's a kind of mystical thing that, why do people follow this particular person? The same thing with Martin Luther King, the same thing with Malcolm X. Why do we follow a particular person and not that, and not somebody else, right? Yeah. And I remember also the Nixon Kennedy debates, and I didn't know anything about politics at all. I was a kid, but I said the good-looking guy is going to win. And I looked at Kennedy and I just said, oh, the handsome guy is going to win. And he won the election, right? So, and that was just, I didn't know anything about politics, but, it was obvious that this person had a charisma. This person had a charisma. And that's really, so the music and then the lyric, it all kind of came together. Yeah, in a way that was very powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then
sorry.
Yeah, the final piece of it was when we recorded our producer, Ed Stasium. We used to play it kind of differently. We used to start out, we used to have a whole introduction before we played the riff. And he said, oh, you should lose the introduction and just play the riff. And then, just play the sample. We had a whole introduction, and then we played the sample and we played the riff. That's how we played it in the clubs.
Yeah.
And he said, man, you know what? You should just use the sample in the beginning and get to the riff. And that's what we did. And that's the song that everybody knows.
I can believe Vivid is 35 years old this year. I mean, that's incredible.
It's incredible because because I'm only 35. So that's amazing to me.
It is too, really amazing.
I said, how's that possible? How's that
Exactly.
possible?
Indeed. And you've
You
kept
know,
your looks, my
because
friend, but
it's a wormhole. It's a wormhole thing, bro. It's a wormhole thing.
that's what it is.
I blame the multiverse. It's a multiverse.
Exactly. But I mean, the riffs and the song cult itself, the political significance of the lyrics and that incredible groove has not aged a bit in its appeal. What was that like for you to watch your own creation, something as iconic that, it's, as you've just described, sort of became itself rather than was built? What's it like to watch a song like Cult take on essentially its own life?
Well, you know what's amazing about that? I'm a lover of rock music, pop music, soul music, popular music, right? And when I think about the songs that are amazing to me, right? I always think to myself, man, what was that like? Before Cult, I was like, what was that like to write a song like that or to hear that? And it kind of with Cult, I got a glimpse. It's a weird, it takes on a life of its own. And I think this is true of every popular song that because there are other great songs, there are other talented people, and for whatever reason, they don't, they don't do that thing. It's a mysterious. I couldn't tell you what it is, but it's a mysterious thing. I remember when there was a radio DJ named Casey Kasem, and
Mhm.
he did this thing KC Coast to Coast, right? And he
Yep.
would run down all the top 40 thing. And I remember hearing Casey Kasem talk about cult of personality, and I was gobsmacked. I was completely I, I I was struck dumb. I couldn't. It's an incredible moment, and it really is this thing of something that came about, and we saw it when we played it in the local clubs. We saw how people. The first time we played Cult, people were like freaked out. People loved the tune, and 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 that was when I said, there's something about this song, and there's something about what this song is saying that is capturing people's imagination.
Mhm.
And really with music, you're capturing some emotional aspect. You're capturing their hearts, you're capturing intellect, you're capturing somebody's sense of humor, but there's an emotional component, right?
Mhm.
You're capturing the spirit of the time, the zeitgeist of a time. And I think with Cult, because we're fascinated with celebrity,
Yeah.
and we're fascinated with fortune, we're fascinated with misfortune,
Yeah.
and those things they haunt us, they compel us, they drive us, they freak us out, and those are the things as part of the human condition. I mean, that's the thing that happens with a song.
Mhm.
A song can crystallize a moment of the human condition, and it's set to music. And it's the same thing when a sports figure when somebody does the impossible thing in a
Mhm.
sports match. When the team that's everything is against them, and the underdog team wins, and that's at every level. It's kind of like in basketball when somebody has a buzzer bell shot. The buzzer bell shot, now, what's amazing is the buzzer bell shot is impossible. Think about it.
Yeah.
You can't set the shot, you can't aim. You can only throw the ball in the time. It's like The buzzer is cutting down to zero. You throw the ball basically in the direction of the basket, right? And everyone's frozen. It's like slow motion, and you see the ball go, and go into the basket right when the buzzer sounds.
Mm.
Now that is insane, right? But if you go and look for buzzer bell shots on YouTube, you will find 1,000. You'll find them high school games, college games, NBA games. It's incredible, right? But at the same time, this amazing thing happens. It's incredibly rare. It's random, but in the aggregate, you can find 100, 1,000 videos of the last minute shot. And I think that part of the song for us, we're part in rock and roll music. We're part of something bigger than ourselves. We're part of something that is just remarkable. And I'm very thankful. I'm always thankful for that. It's an incredible moment.
And of course, that popularity grew. But after Time's Up was released, the popularity grew once again for the band. But now we've had the release of Shade in 2017, which I don't know. It's such an interesting image that you portray with the basketball metaphor, if you will, because it was a 4-year labor of love to get Shade out there, as I understand it. What were some of the hands up trying to get in the way of that buzzer shot?
Oh my God! Well, yeah, because the thing is, all musicians have this thing where the music is first, whatever the accolades, whatever you get, right? The music has got to be first. The music has got to be first and foremost. And music, like the music doesn't care, like the ocean. The ocean doesn't care about your money, right? The ocean doesn't care about your money. The muse doesn't care about any of that. It's really about the music. You have to be, and the thing is, I think musicians, we're human beings, and we can be in the way of the music, And I think, if it was easy, everybody would do it. I mean, in a weird way, because it became an industry with so many hopeful people, so many talented, we've manufactured talent. I mean, think about it. It was a thing that, a few freaks used to do, and suddenly it's become, I'm getting a phone call from somebody I can't talk to. A dear friend of mine, a great drummer, I got to call him back.
Okay.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. There's your buzzer. There's your buzzer bell shot.
Exactly. Indeed.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Of course, Shade has brought about a whole new generation of Living Colour fans. Does the multi-generational celebration of your music take you by surprise sometimes? Looking at the crowd and there's the old, the young, and everyone in between, not only sing the lyrics, but perfect licks on air guitar.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? One of the people who helped, there's this wrestler, named CM Punk in America. And he used Cult of Personality. The song has had the curious life of a song. The song was featured in Guitar Hero, and the video game. And I met the developers at the NAMM show. The NAMM show is a big music conference for music manufacturers in America. And these guys had a stand, and they said, one of the guys said, "Man, I'm a huge fan, and we would love to get Cult of Personality for our game." And I'm like, sure, why not? I love games. I used to go to arcades. I love it, right? And it became part of this thing, right? That worked out. Then this wrestler, it turns out that CM Punk, when he was a kid, he was in Little League Baseball in Chicago. And Cult of Personality was their music that they used to get out on the field.
Oh, wow.
It was their get out on the field music. And his team, his Little League team, won their championship that year. So he had this attachment to the song. And when his career as a wrestler, he said, I'm going to use Cult of Personality for my music. And it's this, and he's a great guy too. So it's had this unique effect. So when you see young people older folks connecting to it. It's a beautiful thing. And Shade is funny because, you know, it was like to get to where we went through a whole thing with Shade. And part of it was I say, you know, we started to do this Robert Johnson tune, you know, Preaching Blues. And that was the beginning. I said, you know what, we're going to do a record where the blues, not necessarily that we're going to play blues every tune, but the spirit of the blues is going to inform this record. And it really, and I tell you, I really went through the blues. Making this record was really a challenge, you know. And so little did we know that the blues was going to come visit us when we took that on, you know. So be careful of what you wish for, because you might get it, you know.
Absolutely, indeed.
Absolutely.
Of course, in terms of the catalogue, you've got so much to draw upon for an unforgettable show, no matter what you play. But what will you have in store for us this Australian tour? Is it sort of a mix of everything across the entire
I think
catalogue?
it's going to be, yeah, I would say it's going to be a mix. And, you know, it's the 30th anniversary of Stain and also the 35th of Vivid. So you're going to hear music from those records. But we tinker with the set a bit, and I'm excited to, you know, for people to hear what we're doing. It's we the other day, you know, sometimes we take songs in and out of the lineup, and the other day we played Landlord, which we really had not had in the set, and it was Corey was just, it's incredible. The fact that Corey Glover can sing the way he sings, and we haven't lowered any keys, and he's an extraordinary singer, you know, but you didn't hear that from me.
Fair enough too. Well, this tour will be absolutely unmissable. We've already got one Melbourne and one Sydney show sold out, so tickets won't last long. There is one thing, being not only something of a member of a band that I've celebrated for a lot of my life, but also a guitar hero of mine. I have to ask you one personal question, if I could.
Sure.
If you could have your choice of stage collaborations, anyone living or legend, who would you most like to share the stage with and play guitar together with?
Oh, I think Otis Redding.
Oh, wow.
I think Otis Redding. I mean, I think there are many great artists. I mean, you know, I tell you, you know, I got a chance to work with Mr. B.B. King. Is another one. What a wonderful spirit. Not just he's a legend, but I tell you what, I would give anything to be able to play with Jack Bruce again. You know, I did some work with Jack Bruce, and I tell you, like, the level of affection for Jack Bruce, you know. Yeah, so those are a few of the people I would, you know, that I would love, you know, to
Absolutely. Thank you for entertaining the question. It's something I've wanted to ask you, but thank you
yeah.
for exploring it back in history a little bit as well. That was great. And I can't encourage people enough to get out and see the show while you're here. It's been an absolute thrill to speak with you, Vernon. Thank you very much for your time.
I've enjoyed our conversation. It was really a lot of fun.
Thank you for your time, Vernon. Have a great day. We'll see you in about a month.
Indeed. Right on, brother.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.